Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. This is our WWE show for the week. My name is George Coles and let's go right into it. First thing we have, which has been a running theme for the past few weeks, we have Triple H flanked by The Shield and Randy Orton starting off the show. Basically talking about Daniel Bryan's deficiencies, what's wrong, what's bad, good for business, which brings out Bryan, basically setting up Triple H saying you have deflected your anger where it should be on the Big Show, who stood by and let you take these beatings instead of us. In other words, setting up a Big Show versus Daniel Bryan match in the main event for the night. Now after that, they set that all up. We had, Orton and Triple H are walking in the back. Cody Rhodes questions them. They put him in a match with Orton. Basically, if Cody loses, he gets fired. So we'll see what happens on that one later. But coming off of that, our first match of the night was Fandango versus Miz. Now, this is what's been referred to as the worker spot on the show. Basically, your first match that's split by the commercial break, it's given a longer time frame. Be nice if we had someone that was more of a ring general. Not a knock on Fandango, really not a knock on Miz either. Miz's character is terrible. He's not really a work rate specialist, and Fandango isn't as of yet. He could evolve into it, and Miz could too. But this is kind of your spot where you should have a guy like Ziggler, a guy like Daniel Bryan, Damian Sandow, Cody Rhodes, guys that could go out there and give you a good, interesting, and compelling 15-20 minute match. This one lacked it for me. I mean, I just didn't get that much excitement off of it. Miz picks up the win. Apparently Fandango broke his nose somewhere in the match. Maybe that's what took away from it a little bit. I don't know. Just to me, it didn't seem like a great match. Even going into it, I didn't think. But I'm so tired of the Miz's character, and I really can't believe how quickly they've dropped Fandango and dropped the ball on him with the momentum he had going for him. That's another story for another day. We go back to the back where we see Booker T giving advice to Daniel Bryan. Bryan turns it on Booker T's head, says, "Tell me you just didn't say that." But basically Booker's saying play ball and make tons of money, because no matter what you do, you can't rage against this machine. I liked it. It was a decent little thing, tied it in. Showed a guy like Booker T who tried to fight against them, but eventually caved in and became part of it. Now our next match of the night is a punishment match for Dolph Ziggler. Again, punishing the guys that have spoke up. We don't know who his opponent's going to be. He gets attacked by Dean Ambrose, which leads you to believe that'll be his opponent. However, it's not. It's Ryback. Ryback picks up their easy win after Ambrose did the wearing down. I like this. I'd like to see Ryback move into a position with the corporation or whatever they're going by at this point. He'd be another guy that would fit into that. I'm hoping this spawns off into a Dolph Ziggler Dean Ambrose feud, which would be amazing if you ask me. But we'll see where that goes from here. Now, speaking of the whole corporate angle, we have Stephanie McMahon says she's going to bring the Big Show out, and she's going to talk to her friend. She brings out the Big Show, hits the crowd with the bombshell that the Big Show's broke, and he's wrestling for money. I don't know what they're doing with the Big Show. The whiny Big Show has to go, though. I mean, to me, you have a 7'4", or whatever he is, 7'2", whatever he may be, 400, 500-pound monster who's athletic and agile and has shed some weight so he can be more athletic and agile, and you make him a whiny little bitch. Yeah, I don't know. to me, they've mismanaged Big Show so much that people stopped caring about him a long time ago, myself included. I've gone through periods where I just don't give a crap about what Big Show's doing, and this is so poorly booked. I mean, as the Big Show, he should either be a heel monster, or he could be a funny face, which he's shown in the past, or he could be one of the heroes, one of the guys like Ziggler and Daniel Bryan, which they're kind of going into that role, but the crybaby shit has to go, in my opinion. Now, next up we have, before we go any further on the show, we're going to go into our question of the week from last week. Now, the question was, who do you think, speaking of what I just said, who do you think is going to be the first guy to cross the line and help out Daniel Bryan? Now, we got some answers for our friends. First is from our friend Aaron Least. I know this is unlikely, but I'd love to see the Primetime Players step up and help Daniel Bryan. All the other top faces don't need a rub from Bryan to get over, but it would definitely help these two guys, and it could lead to a title match for the tag belts. They could do a couple six-man tag matches that would be really good, in his opinion. Good call with that. I like that idea. The next is from our friend Danae Hernandez. I would really think the Usos. They have history and they have put on some great matches and could use the push and get the tag belts. If only one person, maybe Wade Barrett, because I feel he's in limbo and also could use a big push. Keep up the great videos, by the way. Thank you, Danae. I appreciate that. And last but not least, our friend Handsome Pat Fannin. On Night of the Champions or the Monday after, I could see Ziggler and Big Show helping Bryan, and then getting a six-man versus the Shield Zig Show. So, kind of interesting that everybody kind of went with a tag team or a combination with guys. I was leaning towards saying myself that it would be Dolph Ziggler, because he's the guy, out of the two that would make the most interest. And the way that they're booking Big Show, like I said, I'm not really a fan of the way they're booking Big Show. Could be someone out of left field too, which I like some of these ideas. The Primetime Players, the newly turned face Primetime Players, that's a wonderful idea. It's not something I even thought of. The Usos, they have been fighting against the Shield. It would make a lot of sense for them to join in. In my opinion, this could be a perfect opportunity, because you don't need someone that's going to be a world title contender, but you could use someone that could go after Dean Ambrose's U.S. title, which looks like Ziggler's doing. But I would say, why not bring in someone like Zack Ryder? Zack Ryder is someone that the fans have been behind in the past, and I don't think the fans ever stopped being behind him. I just think that they pushed him down the card a little bit. Someone, or maybe a Drew McIntyre, breaking off from 3MB and saying, at one point I was the chosen one, but now you guys stuck me with this crappy group. Bring a little bit of the reality into it. And just a couple guys. I'd like to see them use that position as something to build up one of the guys that really isn't being built up right now. In other words, we know that Cody's going to help. We know Ziggler's going to help. We know Show's going to help. Why not get another talent, raise the bar with them? Just my opinion. But anyway, going to the question of the week for this week. We've seen the videos, we've seen the promos. What do you guys think of the Los Matadors? Used to be Epico and Burrito, been repackaged and looks like a cross between Tito Santana and Aldo Montoya. Let us know what you think about it. Are you excited? Do you not care? Are you waiting to see them debut to see if it's any decent? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down there in the comments. And we'll cover that next week. Now, speaking of tag teams and the seemingly thriving tag team division in WWE, who would have believed that a year ago, or even 6 months ago? We have several teams there now. We had the Primetime Players versus 3MB. I thought it was a really good match. The Primetime Players pick up the win. Obviously, they seem to be getting the rocket ship behind them. Good for them. They're really talented wrestlers. Like I've said a few times, Darren Young is the worker of the group, and Titus O'Neil is the muscle slash. I don't want to say he's the charisma or the personality, because Darren Young has his own, but he's more of the. I guess without saying so much, he's more the personality of the group. He's a guy that makes a group go. I thought it was awesome. I like them going forward. Hopefully this leads to a tag match like our friend Aaron said about against the Shield at some point. Maybe them being the people that take the titles off the Shield. Well, who knows? Now our next match is Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. I absolutely thought this was the best match of the night. The way that Cody Rhodes wrestled, he wrestled with a sense of urgency. He gave the facials, everything he did, the worry in his face, the disbelief when he would hit Randy with everything he had and Randy would kick out. You could see that he put a lot of thought into exactly what he did, and this was absolutely awesome. Cody Rhodes is a guy that has been given a little bit of the brass ring to touch, and he's pulling up to it and just yanking it down so he could grab the full thing. Cody, I mean, it's absolutely amazing to see the evolution of Cody Rhodes, no pun intended. I think Cody, he's a pure natural baby face too. So this role, it's something. He's the anti-Miz. I mean, Miz is a natural heel, and he's failing miserably in the face role. Cody is a natural face who, a lot of people did like him. Don't get me wrong, he did great as a heel, but he's so much better as a face. So much that people want to get behind him, especially the promo he cut later. I thought that was the best promo of Cody's career. A+, talking about the polka dots, making his brother dress up in the gold paint. A+ for Cody Rhodes, and also Randy Orton. I'm going to say this, and it's no knock on Daniel Bryan, but if Randy Orton keeps at the rate he's going with this character, which we know he wanted to be a heel and he loves doing that, and you can see it in him, I have no problem with him being the face of the company. I mean, he's doing absolutely amazing. Now, coming off of that match, we have our promo of the night from CM Punk. Basically talking about what he's going to do to Paul Heyman and Curtis Axel, and if he has to get through Axel to get to Heyman. Came off well. Couple problems I had with it though. It seems that it's just a recycling. Much like the first promo of the night with the Triple H, Shield, and Orton and all. This just seemed like they're saying the same thing over and over again, which I'd much rather seen CM Punk maybe in a warm-up match against somebody else, or a handicap match maybe through 3MB against him. But it is what it is. You got one of the best talkers in the business. I'm not saying that he didn't do well in the role, just saying that I would have liked something different for him, because it's getting so repetitive, and CM Punk's better than that, really. Now, speaking of being better, we had a three-way number one contenders match for the Divas title. Naomi versus Brie Bella versus Natalya Neidhart. This is the fallback from Total Divas, which is actually a really good show if you haven't checked it out. I enjoy it very thoroughly. Is we're getting pushes for these girls that have been on Total Divas, and then we get. Luckily, it wasn't much of a match before AJ Lee got involved and basically caused a disqualification. All the Total Divas jump her. Stephanie McMahon sets up a four-way for the Night of Champions between Naomi, Brie, Natalya, and AJ. I'm glad the brevity of it was what it was. Hopefully when we get to the Night of Champions, we get a combination of Natalya and AJ being the workhorses. Naomi is getting good, and She's better than she was, and every time she's in the ring, she's getting better. But Brie Bella and Nicole Bella, they're terrible. I'm sorry. They're not great wrestlers. They're great eye candy. They're great for the E-show, but they're not great wrestlers at this point. And they really should be. They've had enough time. They've worked up at this for enough time that they should be better than they are. Even Kelly improved. So, just saying. Now, our next match of the night was one I was really looking forward to. It was Damien Sandow versus Rob Van Dam. I don't know what happened in the match, but they didn't really click. Alberto Del Rio came, tried to cause a distraction. Just, to me, it didn't hit on all the cylinders. I thought there was something lacking. I don't know what it was, but it just was. I mean, Rob Van Dam picks up the win. We continue to see Sandow job, which seems to be what they do with at least one of the briefcase winners, is put them through a rigorous set of losses so you're shocked when they win the title. However, they don't realize that they discredit the champion by doing that as well. Oh, there's something about the match I just wasn't very enjoyable. The next match we had was the Big Show versus Daniel Bryan, our main event. Now, before I get into the match, I want to talk a little bit about something involving this match. The thing that was a little bit, I don't know, tested my intelligence, I guess you could say, is why would the Big Show complain about this match? Daniel Bryan said he's okay with it. He wants to do it. Big Show's a wrestler. He's had to wrestle his friends in the past. Daniel Bryan has no problem wrestling him. If Big Show beats Daniel Bryan, I don't think Daniel Bryan would have cared. Going kayfabe here, people. I'm just so you know. So to me, him having a problem wrestling Daniel Bryan kind of subvertly said that Show thinks he's better than Daniel Bryan, which, being a face, it shouldn't. I don't know, it just didn't make sense. They set up the match. Show kind of half-heartedly goes into it, kind of pushes Daniel Bryan off when Daniel Bryan would attack him full bore. At one point, Show walks away, but Triple H stops him. We get a Shield beatdown of Daniel Bryan. Triple H basically shames the Big Show with threatening to fire him into giving Daniel Bryan a knockout punch. A little bit different twist on it. Something I mentioned, I forget who I said it to on Twitter, but they were talking about how the shows are all ending the same or similar. The only thing that we've seen Daniel Bryan get over on the corporation, or whatever you want to call him, is spray painting the Escalade. If you look at the arc of Stone Cold and Vince McMahon, it was always Stone Cold would get a leg up, Vince would get a leg up. Stone Cold would get a leg up, Vince would get a leg up. This is like Triple H's faction gets a leg up, Triple H's faction gets a leg up, Daniel Bryan gets a leg up, Triple H's faction gets a leg up. And to me, Daniel Bryan needs a little bit more of getting a leg up on him, more of coming out on top instead of always being on the bottom. Just saying. That's just my opinion. Okay ending to the show. Like I said, very reminiscent, and the whole show kind of seemed like just a rehash of the past couple weeks, which we're going to go right into our ratings for this week. Now, if you've seen our show before, we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. A 1's a Great Khali, 2's a Heath Slater, 3's a Randy Orton, 4's a CM Punk, 5 is a Daniel Bryan. I'm going to give this show a 2, a Heath Slater. For the reasons I mentioned on this, Sandow and RVD not hitting on all cylinders. The Divas match was not particularly good. The beginning segment, the end segment, the CM Punk thing, all were just so repetitive. Fandango and Miz just did nothing for me. Ziggler and Ryback I did enjoy. I enjoyed the storyline portion of that. And Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton was awesome. The Primetime Players and 3MB, was a great match too. However, with the detractions on the show, it pulled the rating down for me. There was more bad than good, in my opinion. Just saying. So I give it a 2. Give it a Heath Slater for the night. I think they could have done better, and then the repetitiveness is really what killed it. Because at some points, I was just like, okay, you did this last week. You did this on SmackDown. Give us something new. But basically, that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.